Welcome to Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by the one and only Michael Cohen. We've got a lot to discuss. I normally do an intro where I list all the topics, but we got to get right into it because, Michael Cohen, you made big news last week. I heard on Friday first, not here on the MeidasTouch network, some other media sources had to tell me that you were in the process of reaching a resolution in your lawsuit against Donald Trump that was supposed to go to trial beginning of this week. Jury selection completed last week. So I want the brigaders to hear it first. There may be limitations in what it is you can and can't say, but what can you share, Michael Cohen, with the brigaders? Let's just get right into it.
Other than just to turn around and to say that the matter settled, the terms are confidential, unfortunately, but they are confidential. Let me say this. I, like so many people, wanted to see this case go to trial. I've been dreaming about this case going to trial for 4 long years. Unfortunately, trial preparation, as you know, Ben, it's more than just what you want. And, rest assured, everybody keeps, as soon as the information came out, everybody was, oh, congratulations, congrats. Let me be very clear about something. I'm satisfied, but I'm not happy about it. I, again, would have liked to have had Don Jr. on the stand. I would have liked to have had others on the stand. Only for, I hate to say it, the shock value of what it would have been worth, more so, but there's underlying circumstances. Thursday night, the phone call came into me very late that my lawyer was contacted by Trump's folks and back and forth until ultimately on Friday, a resolution to the case ended up obviously taking place and the matter resolved. But 4 long years. I will tell you what it does turn around and say, and I said it on my Twitter account and on my Threads account. If you want to fight with Donald Trump, you know that right off the bat, you're going to have to be in the matter for the long haul. You're going to fight for years. In this specific case, you had motion after motion after motion. And finally, on, I think it was either the 3rd or 4th motion to dismiss, the judge ultimately granted their motion to dismiss on the most cockamamie, rationale behind it. So we filed an appeal. I mean, you could imagine how much time gets invested into a case like this. We file an appeal, and the appellate court in the First Department comes back, the First Circuit, and 5-0 overturn it and remand the case back to the judge who had the case, Judge Joel Cohen. Decent guy. All right. Just, it was a mistake. The way he saw the case, completely inaccurate. Okay. Now we get there and we're ready for pretrial conference, 7 motions in limine, something we talked about here on the Political Beatdown. 7, and all 7 dismissed. So then we have another pretrial conference. You could imagine how much, again, work. The point is that if you fight Trump to the very, very end, he knows when he's wrong and his folks know when he's wrong. And the ultimate result is that they end up settling. And that's what happened here.
And so is it officially settled now? I saw that the settlement was in the works. Case over, dismissed at this point?
Yeah, I mean, it was before the court, and right now there's just documents that are being prepared and so on. But the matter is, for all intents and purpose, it is it's over, and the case is settled.
And I know you can't go into the terms, but there's no broad non-disparagement provision that would prevent you from criticizing Donald Trump in other matters, is there?
No. I mean, this specifically has to do with the outstanding legal obligations that were created in the release. Like in all general releases, neither party acknowledges responsibility or culpability or any wrongdoing. However, to avoid the trial, the
Yeah.
language that's used in these
But
general
there's
releases,
nothing
and I don't
preventing you
particularly
ever.
care.
There's nothing preventing you from saying, for example, that in any other area that Donald Trump's a traitor, correct? I mean, you can say that.
No, there's no gag order on me for this. I could assure you that that would never have settled if there's going to be a gag order on me.
Good.
They couldn't get a gag order on me when they were remanding me back to
Right.
Otisville unconstitutionally. They're certainly not going to do it over money. That's just not going to happen. You
Tell
could
us
just imagine.
about.
But it just goes to show, I think that there's more, Ben, here for the brigaders, for the political beatdown brigaders, and for the country to show you that Donald Trump does not win all the time. In fact, as we've seen, Donald Trump seems to be losing a whole lot more often than he wins. We saw, for example, in the elector, litigation that went on, 60 actions were brought. Right after Trump lost the election, and then he also lost all 60 of those actions. Like I said, he lost to E. Jean Carroll, and I predict that he will lose to E. Jean Carroll again. There's a lot to talk about in terms of his losing, right? And one of the things that I ultimately learned after we were all together on Thursday is that with the Southern District of Miami case, Trump is going to be required to appear for a deposition within 45 days from last Thursday. And that's going to be a very interesting deposition. How much of it I will be able to share, whether I'll be able to share, specific quotes and statements or the entire video deposition, I don't know. That's something that the judge is working through right now based upon confidentiality and privilege. I don't personally see where there should be any, but then again, I'm not the judge. And I respect whatever the judge's determination is. If they allow us to use the tape or to disseminate the tape, you could imagine, Ben, you and I will have a lot to be discussing, and Salty will be making many, many clips out of that, what I expect to be up to a 7-hour deposition.
Well, if it's possible, as a member of the media now, I may file a petition to be able to be there in my capacity, not as a lawyer, but as a member of the public that is very interested in that. And speaking of what I think members of the public are very interested in as well, and it's something that you pointed out, like last week, and we talked about this on Political Beatdown, Donald Trump lost like 3 major motions and 3 major things in 3 different courts, right? He lost in 2 federal courts in the Southern District of New York. He tried to get that case removed that was filed by the Manhattan District Attorney, by the way. It all intersects with Political Beatdown, where you're one of the key witnesses for 34 felony counts for making the hush money payments to an adult film actress. It's always funny talking about that while I co-host this show with you. But Trump tried to get the case removed from the Manhattan State Court to federal court. He lost that motion. And not only that, but the federal judge Hellerstein was basically like, the DA put on substantial evidence of the underlying crime, right? Donald Trump also lost a big petition to the Georgia Supreme Court where they rejected this petition to try to stall what Fulton County DA Fani Willis was doing, both on procedural grounds and on the merits. And Donald Trump also asked for a motion for new trial in the E. Jean Carroll case, basically pretending that he had won the case. And Judge Lewis Kaplan slapped him down. And one of the things that Ted Lieu, Democratic Congress member, did today, which I thought was particularly powerful, he went to the House floor right before we went on live today on Political Beatdown, and he read Judge Kaplan's order. It was a powerful moment, but it also shows how disgusting Donald Trump is, how vile this individual is, and the fact that the Republican Party supports this man.
What do you mean? It's not just support. Hold on, Ben. It's not just support. The guy is going to be I mean, he is the presumptive nominee in 2024 representing the Republican Party. And, I have upcoming up Harry Littman on Mea Culpa, the other podcast.
Harry's great.
And Harry is sitting there. He loves you too, by the way. And Harry's sitting there smacking himself in the head and saying, I just don't understand the stupidity of these people. I don't understand how they can support a twice impeached, twice soon to be thrice indicted, a sexual assault offender, insurrectionist, He goes, I don't understand where these people are, where these people are at, where their head is at, what they're thinking, because none of it makes any sense. If you start to, is there not somebody else that the Republican Party can look to for guidance, for a possibility of presidential win? I mean, the best that they can do is somebody who is morally bankrupt. I don't get it. And neither did Harry. And actually, neither does almost anybody that seems to have some seichel, that have some brains in their head. I mean, these 70 million people that voted for him. Okay, look, let's even assume that it's not 70 anymore, because he has lost popularity. There's no doubt about that. The question becomes, how much popularity has he lost? Even if it's 50%, that's still 35 million people that are indoctrinated into the cult of Donald J. Trump and have no ability whatsoever to extricate themselves from it. It makes no sense.
Here is Congressmember Ted Lieu reading the federal judge's opinion in the Southern District of New York about Donald Trump's conduct regarding E. Jean Carroll. Play the clip.
1 minute.
On July 19th, 2023, federal judge Lewis Kaplan rejected Donald Trump's request for a new trial and confirmed that Donald Trump raped E. Jean Carroll. I'm going to submit this court ruling into the congressional record, and now I'm going to read you what the judge found. On page 43, the judge wrote, Ms. Carroll testified that the sexual assault, the rape, of which she accused Mr. Trump involved especially painful, forced digital penetration. The judge further writes, the testimony of the outcry witnesses, Ms. Birnbach and Ms. Martin, corroborated the essence of Ms. Carroll's account of a violent, traumatic sexual assault. On page 44, the judge wrote, the jury's finding of sexual abuse therefore necessarily implies that it found that Mr. Trump forcibly penetrated her vagina. The judge further writes, in other words, that he raped her. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Iowa seek recognition?
He read the court opinion into the record. That is what a federal judge found. That is what a jury of Donald Trump's peers found, that Donald Trump's lawyer, Joe Tacopina, participated in the selection of that jury. That was a case where Donald Trump came up with some fake reasons why he had to be in Scotland and Ireland while the trial was taking place. The judge said, well, we'll give you an extension if you want to come and testify, even though your counsel rested. You have free reign to testify. Trump refused to testify. And to your point, E. Jean Carroll prevailed because her lawyers put on evidence, facts. And when you present the facts to juries, devoid of the disinformation chamber that's out there on Fox and all this right-wing media, over and over and over again, the juries come back and find that these criminals are criminals.
So, Ben, my question to you, what was the purpose of Ted Lieu standing up today on the floor of the House and reading Judge Kaplan's decision into the record? What was the purpose of it? What does he intend to do post-reading and grandstanding by putting this into the record? See, this is the whole problem. And if I can, I'd like to just remind you of something. All right. On July 24th of 2020. All right. July 24th. You see the old name there, Ted Lieu? All right. July 24th of 2020. He sends a letter to Michael Horowitz, Department of Justice, Office of the Inspector General, in my case. And then blah, blah, blah. He goes into a whole thing, which I don't even know what the beginning is even about. But unfortunately, we have now learned that DOJ imprisoned Michael Cohen because he wanted to exercise his First Amendment rights. This is Ted Lieu and Hakeem Jeffries. During a July 23rd hearing on the circumstances surrounding Mr. Cohen's imprisonment, Judge Alvin Hellerstein found, and I quote, "The purpose of transferring Mr. Cohen from furlough and home confinement to jail is retaliatory, and it's retaliation because of his desire to exercise his First Amendment right to publish a book and discuss anything about the book or anything else he wants on social media and with others." Judge Hellerstein then ordered the Federal Bureau of Prisons to release Mr. Cohen, all right, to home confinement. That's July 24th of 2020. So on the same notion, what do you think's come out of that letter? The answer is absolutely nothing. And then until I was on, I think it was, if I'm not, it was either Alex Witt or Nicole Wallace, where they had Ted Lieu on right after me, she decides to ask him a question. And this is a really important point, because this is why the brigade is the single most important thing right now. So on January 19th of 2022, 18 months later, they finally received from Michael Horowitz a response to Ted Lieu and to Hakeem Jeffries. "Dear Representatives Lieu and Jeffries," and he goes, "I'm writing in response to your letter dated July 24th of 2020. In which you requested the Department of Justice, Office of Inspector General, investigate allegations that then Attorney General William Barr and the Federal Bureau of Prisons improperly deprived Michael Cohen of his freedom in retaliation for exercising his First Amendment rights under the United States Constitution." Then Michael Horowitz goes on to say, "My apologies for failing to respond more promptly to your letter." More promptly? A year and a half? Give me a fucking break. All right. So my question I'm trying to figure out is, great. He stood up, he read it into the record. Anybody who's following politics today knew about Judge Kaplan's decision. It's not new. It's not that without Ted Lieu reading it into the record, that all of a sudden, nobody would have known exactly what Trump did and what he was charged with, where the $5 million came and is going to. So my question is, what is Ted Lieu going to do about it? He read it into the record. Good. Now what? What happens next?
I'm not sure if, first off, if all of the American people know that Judge Kaplan reached that conclusion, because there is a lot of disinformation out there. If you're watching Fox, if you're watching some of the other networks, I don't think you may have known about the jury verdict, but then I'm sure you also heard from all of the MAGA Republicans saying all of the lies that they spread. Oh, it's a New York jury. It was rigged. It was unfair. So I think hearing the actual order and the words and reading those words and what a federal judge actually said, I think is powerful. But let's talk about what else is going on today, though.
And this grandstanding this grandstanding by all of them on both sides of the aisle has to stop. And what we actually need is not grandstanding, no more of the bullshit. What we actually need is we need our members of Congress to do something about the things that they want to talk about. Plain and simple.
You and I have respectful disagreements on Political Beatdown. I don't think that the grandstanding on both sides is a both sides thing at all. I think you have MAGA Republicans who don't grandstand. What they do is they lie every day about fake things about President Biden and fake things about Hunter Biden and fake things about Mayorkas. And every single day they come up with fake whistleblowers. They're making alliances with oligarchs connected with Putin and Chinese spies to try to overthrow our democracy. You've got MAGA Republicans, if you want to talk about fascist grandstanding, they're out there sending congressional delegations to sing songs with the January 6th insurrectionists in prisons and whining that even though the January 6th prisoners, most of them have been convicted and others have gotten their due process rights, they say that they're being treated unfairly when they're not being treated unfairly, and they're doing Let's Go branded chants together and coming up with anthems together. There's a big difference between that, in my opinion, respectfully, than Ted Lieu saying that this is what a judge just issued.
And by the way, no problem. Now go ahead and do something about it. No point in talking about something unless you're prepared to act and
let me
to
ask you this, though.
effectuate a result.
Let me ask you this, though. What, as the fact that Democrats are in the minority in the House of Representatives, meaning
Right.
they don't control the hearings, they have limited time based on their role, that they really can't bring bills to the floor the way they could. They don't have, ranking, they don't have rather committee assignments where they can control things. What is it? He's not a prosecutor, so he doesn't have the ability to bring charges. He is a single member of the House of Representatives in the minority who can use his main power is he could go to the House floor, and on the committee hearings, they can push back against the MAGA Republican agenda, but the Republicans control the House now. Democrats control the Senate. And if you want to know what they can do, what someone like Ted Lieu can do, look what he did when Democrats controlled both the House and the Senate, and you got things passed like the PACT Act and the CHIPS Act and the Inflation Reduction Act and the Infrastructure Act and the American Rescue Plan and all of the things that have led to very positive development. So I hear you, but I also
I'm just trying
think
to figure out what was the purpose. And you know what? There needs to be a purpose other than just reading something into the record for fuck's sake. It makes that's my opinion.
And here, though, the context of why was that said today, right? What is happening today? Why he would say this is who Donald Trump is? Well, today you have the MAGA Republicans rolling out a plan for the impeachment of President Joe Biden. I want to show you Kevin McCarthy earlier in the day, what he said on Fox, or you may have said this last night, but then going into the day, you had Marjorie Taylor Greene and others as part of this plan, because Donald Trump ordered them to do this, to do the expungement of Donald Trump's impeachment, even though that's not even a thing. There is no such thing as an expungement of an impeachment, as well as to impeach President Biden. Here's Kevin McCarthy last night on Hannity claiming that the evidence-free allegations against Joe Biden are, quote, rising to the level of an impeachment inquiry. Play this clip.
If you're sitting in our position today, we would know none of this if Republicans had not taken the majority. We've only followed where the information has taken us. But Hannity, this is rising to the level of impeachment inquiry, which provides Congress the strongest power to get the rest of the knowledge and information needed. Because this president has also used something we have not seen since Richard Nixon, used the weaponization of government to benefit his family and deny Congress the ability to have the oversight.
Here is Marjorie Taylor Greene on the House floor today, demanding that Congress immediately move to impeach Biden and expunge Trump's 2 impeachments. Play this clip of Marjorie Taylor Greene.
And it continues on. What I'm demanding is that the Republican-led House of Representatives move forward on an impeachment inquiry on Joe Biden, because this type of corruption should never be allowed to stand. We must expunge President Trump's wrongful impeachments, and we must impeach Joe Biden. I yield back, Mr. Speaker.
One more I want to show you, Cohen. Here is MAGA Republican. Here is MAGA Republican Ralph Norman. This was all part of the plan. Donald Trump ordered them to do this today, and this is what the Republicans were doing today. Play this clip of MAGA Republican Ralph Norman.
If it's not accountability now for the highest office holder in the land, when is it going to be? So he's right to do it, and I think he's going to continue. And I think at the end of the day, he will be impeached.
Cohen, your thoughts?
Of course, they control, as you stated, the House. So they will draft articles of impeachment. There is no doubt about it. It's something that we've all known was going to happen just as soon as the House became, Republican. And that's why, of course, like here on the Beatdown and on our other, podcasts, we always talk about vote blue. Make sure that this doesn't happen. What are they going to impeach Biden on? The answer is nothing. And even if they do draft articles of impeachment and they go ahead and they do their dog and pony show for, their furor for Donald, to show how loyal that they all are. At the end of the day, of course, the Senate is not going to vote to impeach Joe Biden. First of all, there is no impeachable offense. It's going to be an interesting trial, despite what Marjorie Toilet Green has to say. It's not the same thing. You don't have Joe Biden doing anything, and all of the attacks. Oh, Hunter Biden, he was getting money from Burisma. Hunter Biden, his laptop, the sex tape, blah, blah, blah. That's Hunter Biden. We're not voting for Hunter Biden to be president in 2024. So the notion that they're going to attach Hunter Biden to Joe Biden is stupid. But then again, they need something to hang their hats on. And this is the closest that they can get. You're right. Joe Biden is doing a fantastic job. And he's doing as good a job as anybody possibly could under the circumstances. And that's a problem for this radical group of lunatics that are trying to destroy our democracy. And again, it's why, Ben, you and I, how many times will we say it? And I'll say it a million more. As long as, our brigaders do what's necessary, make sure everybody that is registered to vote, make sure that come the primaries, make sure come election, the general election, that you're out there in force, voting, making sure that this isn't even close. People think that the last election was a massive landslide. Well, if you look only at the Electoral College, you're right. It was an absolute ass kicking. It was the same ass kicking that Donald had against Hillary Clinton 4 years earlier. Here's the difference, though. If you look to see the number of votes that swung in Biden's favor over Trump, which is what gave Biden the take-all, the electoral votes, it's less than 100,000 votes in 4 or 5 states. That's not big enough. Our democracy cannot sustain another 4 years of a Donald Trump or a Ron DeSantis or a Donald Trump 2.0. And that's why we need to make sure that nothing stops a landslide victory, not electoral, but popular vote and electoral vote in 2024.
And let's remember, the House of Representatives, they vote to impeach. Then there has to be a trial in the Senate, and the Senate is the ultimate body that would vote to convict. And so I think that we're going to, that if MAGA Republicans pursue this, it's going to look like all of these hearings that have backfired on them miserably. It's going to be that on steroids, because the MAGA Republicans are going to have to put forward these witnesses, their fake whistleblowers, their Chinese spies, their Russian oligarchs. And, the one thing that where I disagreed with you earlier, I think more Americans don't know what's going on. And when they watch the media or they turn on their local news or they turn on a large media, they just hear, you got Democrats, you've got Republicans, and there's just so much division going on in this country. And they don't realize that even if you remove the politics, you've got on the Democratic side people who are just far more qualified and experienced and people who just know what they're doing. And then you have people on the Democratic side who are actually, and by the way, I don't agree with Democrats on everything, nor should we, but they're actually doing things about issues that should matter most to you all, like jobs and education and healthcare and issues very important to seniors and students and veterans and our military and towards equality for a woman's right to control their body. That's what Democrats are talking about. And MAGA Republicans are showing dick pics of Hunter Biden. I don't think Americans are getting the full picture. And one of the things I'm glad that we have this massive platform. We're currently #1 in all of YouTube on news right now in the entire world right now, thanks to the Brigaders. So I know that there's a thirst and a hunger for data, for an evidence-driven approach. And people who have tuned in already, they go, hey, Cohen and Ben don't agree on everything. They have civil disagreements. They have great debates. But ultimately, where we agree on is we got to fight for our democracy.
Tell you what we agree on. We agree that democracy needs to continue, that this incredible experiment called democracy is the greatest. It's the greatest form that the world has seen when it comes to how we should be interacting with one another. And when you have somebody with autocratic personality disorder, somebody who wants to be the Mohammed bin Salman, the Vladimir Putin, the Kim Jong-un of the United States of America, I have a fundamental problem with that. A man who turns around and says he wants to rewrite the Constitution. What, in fucking crayon? On what? On a napkin, right? That was sat underneath his Diet Coke? Seriously? Donald Trump is going to rewrite the Constitution? Can you imagine how crazy that is as a thought, that he comes out and turns and says to everybody, I will be your vengeance. I will be your retribution. What do you think that means to people like me? What do you think, Ben, that means to people like you or any one of the people that will be on Donald Trump's hit list? And that hit list will be long. It will be long. And if we're going to allow somebody who wants to create a hit list for critics, right? And, and he has ultimate power and authority, and he's going to grant himself even more power and more authority based upon rewriting the Constitution. I don't see a democracy. I don't see that as a democracy. That to me sounds exactly like an autocracy. And I'm not being hyperbolic either at the moment. I'm being fact driven. It's not my words, it's Donald's words. And what we're doing is we put his words together to come to you, the Brigaders, to help us so that we can help the country. Plain and simple.
And I think, what are they going to do to marginalized groups? What are they going to do to minorities? We know that woke is all a pretext for their racist, fascist agenda to go after minorities and to take away freedoms from marginalized groups and to affirmatively attack people and to not give people the equality in the direction that our country has been going in. That's what they are doing there. We still got a lot to discuss. I'm loving these discussions right now that we're having, me, you, the Brigaders. I'm watching what's going on in the chat as well. Also, just want to mention as well, you got the Michael Cohen Legal Defense Fund. We talked about some of his cases at the outset. In the description, you could contribute to Cohen's Legal Defense Fund. There it is at thefirewallfund.com. All those funds go to the defense of Cohen in the $500 million case Donald Trump filed against him. Thank you, everybody, for doing that. Also, you may be seeing some of those emojis. We just got a Brett emoji. We got a Jordan emoji. We got a Political Beatdown emoji. We got a Karen Freeman Agnifilo emoji. We don't have outside investors here at the MeidasTouch Network. So one of the ways we build this platform is through the memberships on YouTube. That's that $. You can buy memberships, gift memberships. No pressure if you can't, but that's how you do it with that $. We're going to take a quick break, but we have a lot to discuss. What's Special Counsel Jack Smith up to? Are indictments imminent? I want to talk about a letter that the Department of Justice sent to Jim Jordan, that and more. Let's take a quick break. Ben Meiselas here. Did you know that your temperature at night can have one of the greatest impacts on your sleep quality? If you wake up too hot or too cold, I highly recommend you check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. Inspired by NASA, Miracle Made uses silver-infused fabrics and makes temperature-regulating bedding so you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. Using silver-infused fabrics originally inspired by NASA, Miracle Made sheets are thermoregulating and designed to keep you at the perfect temperature all night long, so you get better sleep every night. These sheets are infused with silver that prevent up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresh 3 times longer than other sheets. No more gross odors. And get this, Miracle sheets are luxuriously comfortable without the high price tag of other luxury brands and feel as nice, if not nicer, than bed sheets used by some 5-star hotels. Stop sleeping on bacteria. Bacteria can clog your pores, causing breakouts and acne. Sleep clean with Miracle. Go to trymiracle.com/beat to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo BEAT at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. Upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/beat and use the code BEAT to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40%. Again, that's trymiracle.com/beat to treat yourself. Thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this episode.
And now let's take a quick break to talk about our next partner, Fume. Cold turkey, it may be great on sandwiches, but there's a better way to break your bad habits. We're not talking about some weird mind voodoo from your wacky neighbor or some sketchy message board. We're talking about our sponsor, Fume, and they look at the problem in a different way. Now, not everything in a bad habit is wrong. So instead of drastic, uncomfortable change, why not just remove the bad from your habit? Fume is an innovative, award-nominated device that does just that. Instead of electronics, Fume is completely natural. Instead of vapor, Fume uses flavored air. And instead of harmful chemicals, Fume uses all natural, delicious flavors. You get it. Instead of bad, Fume is good. It's a habit you're free to enjoy and makes replacing your bad habit easy. Your Fume comes with an adjustable airflow dial and is designed with movable parts and magnets for fidgeting, giving your fingers a lot to do, which is helpful for de-stressing and anxiety while breaking your habit. The first time I used Fume, I was shocked at how flavorful and fresh it tasted. Now, it's easy to hold and perfectly balanced and quite honestly, extremely fun to fidget with. The real wood material and sleek design definitely classes it up, and I feel pretty darn cool holding it. Stopping is something we all put off because it's hard, but switching to Fume is easy, enjoyable, and even fun. Fume has served over 100,000 customers and has thousands of success stories, and there's no reason that can't be you. Head to tryfume.com and use code BEAT to save 10% off when you get the Journey Pack today. That's tryfum.com and use code BEAT to save an additional 10% off your order today.
Welcome back to Political Beatdown. Ben Meiselas and Michael Cohen. You know, when I said how I thought that impeachment investigation's going to backfire, I love showing this clip because I think this member of Congress is such a superstar, Raja Krishnamurthy, who's been on the show before. And this cross-exam he did of these fake whistleblowers just goes to show you, in my opinion, how these MAGA Republicans just basically distort kind of the time-space continuum to basically validate their conspiracy theories, right? Like they talk about things that happen when Trump was in office and then criticize President Biden for weaponizing the government in like April of 2020. And they don't get pushback when they spread this on Fox. So you'll see complaints and things like, oh, look, here were the complaints. And then you'll see what happens when these fake whistleblowers are confronted with reality. A Harvard-educated lawyer and Raja Krishnamurthy, Democratic member of Congress. Here, watch this clip.
You were concerned about the complexities of the election cycle and potential delays that arose in connection with the election cycle. You said at page 23, and I remember there were always times where we were always on an impending election cycle. It was always the elections being brought up in early 2020. It was the presidential primaries. Now, sir, Joe Biden was not the president at that time either, was he?
I mean, the answer to your question is no, he was not, but I don't see where you referenced it in my, for me to
Page
follow
23.
along.
You're talking about how the election cycle is delaying decisions by the prosecution. And it turns out that the delay in the election cycle was happening at a time when Joe Biden was not the president.
I'm sorry, sir. That's in Special Agent Ziegler's transcript. That's why I couldn't find it.
So, Mr. Ziegler and you shared concerns about delays related to the election cycle, but at that time, Joe Biden was not the president.
I believe at that time he was the nominee for president.
But, well, he was not the president, was he? It's just a simple question, sir.
Can you rephrase what time period?
Joe Biden was not the president in the presidential primaries in 2020.
Correct. That is correct.
Sir, finally, Mr. Shapley, you said that warrants were ready as soon as April 2020 to begin searching for records, but actions weren't taken with regard to those warrants. Again, Joe Biden was not the president in April 2020, was he?
So I'm confused by your line of questioning. We're talking about an election to which now President Biden was a part of. So he didn't have to be the president to have election meddling.
No, but the question is this. Was he the president at that time in April 2020?
It's been asked and answered.
And what's the answer, sir?
The election.
The answer is yes or no?
Is no.
Thank you. Thank you. I yield back.
Mr.
Hit a little beatdown. The answer is?
I mean, seriously, it reminds me of like Porky Pig, right? Who's sitting there and it's like, and Jim Jordan is exactly the same way when he's lying to his constituents, or when he's in front of the camera and he's lying to tell the viewership. It is amazing to me what Raja did there. I had him on Mea Culpa as well. He is so brilliant, and he was so precise in the questioning that he knew he was going to ask these two bullshit artists. And you know what? Shame on them. In fact, if somebody should go ahead and refer them for 1,001 violation of lying to Congress, because that's what they're doing. This is all part of the scheme of the GOP to try to bloody up Joe Biden, because Donald Trump is going to get indicted again any day soon, 3 times. And then let's not forget, there's going to be a 4th. So you'll have 2 federal indictments and 2 state indictments. This is unprecedented in not just U.S. history. I think this is unprecedented in the entire world's history. There's never been a leader of any country who has been indicted 4 times. I mean, this is absolutely absurd that he's still the front runner of the GOP. And I'm dumbfounded by the whole thing.
Well, I was nervous for a second that you were going to give those 2 fake whistleblowers the 2-finger salute, but I know in your mind they were not worth it. I'm going to show you someone who may be worth it right now, because Alina Habba, who is now Donald Trump's spokesperson, no longer his lawyer after being sanctioned close to $1 million and losing all of the other cases, whenever an indictment is imminent, like the past one with the theft of the records at Mar-a-Lago, the classified records, she'll go and say things like, the Espionage Act? Nobody knows what the Espionage Act is. Yeah, people do.
Well, she does
it.
She doesn't know because she's a parking garage attorney. I mean, that's what she does. She handles parking garages. So maybe, yes, she wouldn't know the Espionage Act unless she looked it up.
So one of the things that Fani Willis, Fulton County District Attorney, is likely going to be charging Donald Trump with is a RICO or racketeering charge for a common plan and scheme, a common enterprise, a broader conspiracy that took place to interfere with the election in Georgia through various means and methods and conduits, right? And, there's a broad conspiracy that took place. But here is Alina Habba in an interview that she just gave, where she tells the interviewer, I think on Newsmax, racketeering? That's like some old school thing. What is this racketeering here? Play this clip.
Question. In Fulton County, you've got the potential for a racketeering charge. That's not something people typically think about in the political lens. Do you think that a racketeering charge will be brought, and how would you even expect an indictment like that to be alleged?
I don't know, because when I think of racketeering, and it's funny, somebody mentioned this to me the other day, they said, racketeering is what they do for mobs. That racketeering is an old school, old world thing. You don't associate that with the president. You don't associate that with something where he had a phone call with lawyers where he didn't do anything wrong. But what you have, again, is election interference. They're going to tie him up in litigation. They're going to tie him up in depositions and trials, all the way up to the 2024 election. That is interference.
And do you think the
Yeah, there are no depositions in a criminal case. That's not litigation. And also, I should note, I remembered as that clip just started to play. So they don't even try to hide that these right-wing networks are just like an arm of the MAGA Republican Party. You've got Matt Gaetz is actually the host of the show.
Well, I was going to ask you that. Since when is Matt Gaetz, a member of Congress, the host on Newsmax?
That's what they do there.
I have to, again, I have to just scratch my head in complete bewilderment and say, is there not something wrong with having Matt Gaetz as a host of a right-wing news program, Newsmax? Isn't there something wrong with that? Is there some rule that may be against that? And Alina, for God's sakes, I got to be honest with you, she's so stupid. Honestly, when she goes on television, I don't care if it's Newsmax and she's playing to a crowd, of people that no matter what she says, as long as it's in defense of the Mandarin Mussolini, they sit there and they tap her, they tap her on the back. Yeah, go Alina, you're the best. Yeah, good for you. That's right, protect our Führer. No, you sound so stupid, beyond stupid. But she's so, Ben, I got to be honest with you, she's so inconsequential. I received from her yesterday on the appeal papers that I have in to the Second Circuit on the case of Michael Cohen versus the United States government, Donald Trump, Bill Barr et al., the whole group of them. I received papers, their opposition, their reply papers to our appeal. Now, there's no doubt in my mind she didn't write it. I know she put her name onto it. But there's so many flaws in these papers. I spent about 2 hours today with my counsel going through the document. It's like 50 some odd pages. So it took us a little bit of time, but there's so many flaws in their argument that they ignore our papers. I can't waste my two-finger salute on Alina. It's just not worth it. Not when you have people who are in power. Not when you have people, again, like Marjorie Toilet Green, that get up there and all she wants to do is continue to lie about Joe Biden, to make up more and more stories, and to continue this misinformation, disinformation, malinformation that the GOP have concocted simply to muddy the waters on Joe Biden's name in order to divert from what's obviously coming, and that is 2 more indictments against their supreme leader. So, on behalf of the Political Beatdown, on behalf of our brigaders, on behalf of you, Ben, and I'm going to do it for you no matter whether you like it or not, to Marjorie Toilet Green, fuck you, you stupid asshole. Just fuck you already. I mean, what is wrong with her constituents? Vote this stupid piece of shit out of office tomorrow. She is a fucking embarrassment to our country. And she's an embarrassment to humanity. I mean, the fact that she can get up onto the onto in the people's on our floor and lie with such impunity. It's like, I understand she's playing to a party of one. Number one, Marjorie, toilet. You are never going to be the fifth. You'll never be the fourth or the fifth or the sixth Mrs. Donald J. Trump. As much as you would like to be, you will never be that person. You will also never be asked to be the vice president in this upcoming 2024 election, should he end up becoming the nominee. All right. You're not going to be there. Will he give you a cabinet position? Yeah, maybe, sure, because he doesn't care about the country. He doesn't care about getting things done. All he cares about is knowing that you will be there to back him up on anything and everything that he wants to do, regardless on whether it's unconstitutional, whether it's un-American, or whether it's just a complete a complete sham. It doesn't matter as long as you pledge your fealty to him, and Lord knows you have done that. So for that, again, 2 fingers salute, asshole.
So I'm occasionally asked in emails, hey, Ben, we really love the MeidasTouch network, but is there any chance that there could be a no swearing policy? And I go, respectfully, I'm not able to achieve that. That's not going to happen. And what I love about what you say is that that's just how Americans feel. Like what you just said should scare the crap out of all Americans as well. That, yeah, she'd probably get a cabinet level position. It is not beyond Donald Trump to put her as a Secretary of State, to put her as the head of Homeland Security, to put her in a major position like that. And this is someone who's posting the following. Like, let me show you what Donald Trump is posting right now over the past 24 hours, as it's increasingly clear that an indictment is imminent from special counsel Jack Smith and the grand jury in Washington, D.C. for 2020 election interference. It could happen at any moment. It could happen while we're live. It could happen in the next few hours. We know the grand jury returned on Tuesday, and it seems that the investigation has all but wrapped up. But this is how Donald Trump is responding. Here he's posting an account called Fruit Snacks that has a QAnon logo below his lapel pin. It says Q plus on the bottom, and he's reposting QAnon. He's posting a meme that says January 6th will go down in history as the day the government staged a riot to cover up the fact that they certified a fraudulent election. He's reposting this despicable meme by Fruit Snacks and this by Ted Nugent as well, saying January 6th will be remembered as the day the government set up a staged riot to cover up the fact they certified a fraudulent election. You see on the top, reposted by Donald Trump. Somebody who's this dangerous, who's reposting this. And the fact that large media networks, everyone else other than the MeidasTouch network, do not cover this on a daily basis, or they don't focus on it anywhere near the way they should. And I always say there was a time where if a politician spelled potato wrong or shouted woohoo the wrong way, that could be disqualifying right there, because Americans said, hey, I don't want some of that. That may demonstrate potential for a lack of judgment, and people would be disqualified. You have Donald Trump every day posting QAnon memes for a death cult and spreading these heinous lies about the January 6th insurrection, heinous lies about the 2020 election. And going full circle in this episode, he's not just supported by the Republican Party, he is the Republican Party. And that is why we need to show images like this and just have conversations with Americans who haven't been familiar with the MeidasTouch network and say, here's what he's saying. Like, this is just what's going down.
You know, there's so many things today that are so batshit crazy that we don't even know where to start, where to stop. We are all numb. We are numb from the stupidity that keeps coming at us day in and day out. So to those who are, for example, living in Florida with Governor Ron DeSantis over there, here's the big problem. The big problem is he now wants to change, as an example, Black history, the curriculum on Black history. And you got to say to yourself, you're joking, right? I mean, history is the one thing that you can't change. You can possibly change your future, right? Like if you have A1C, well, then lay off the sweets, right? If you have a heart attack, maybe you go to the gym or, whatever it might be. You could always look to the future, but you can't change the past. Well, they have now come up with a way to do this. It is the most racist thing that you could imagine when you want to change Black history. Oh, yeah, slavery was actually good for Black people because it gave them certain qualities and benefits that they're able to use today. Now, what the hell he's talking about? Look, we all have our own imagination, and there are thoughts that I have as to what he's thinking. But not only do I not know what Ron DeSnotnose is thinking, I don't even want to try to put myself into his brain, into his head, because it is one very dangerous place to be. But this is the danger of the Republican Party today. Each one, from Marjorie Toilet Green to DeSantis to Cruz to Gates to Hawley, you name it, each and every one, to Lindsey Graham to Comer to Jim Jordan. Think about it. Think about the craziness that these people are spewing on a daily basis, that all it does is divide us as a country. All that this does is make us, going back to the Civil War, but it's not North versus South anymore. Now it's Republican versus Democrat. And this is going to become a big problem. It's going to become a war between the parties because that's what the Republicans want. They want to create a divisiveness, thinking that if they can actually win, if they can win and pull it off in 2024, they're going to rewrite our Constitution. They're going to rewrite, laws to the extent that it's not only going to impede upon a woman's right to choose, it's going to impede upon same-sex marriage. It's going to be interracial marriage. It's going to be about history. It's going to be, just the look to see what is happening right now and understand that this is not by accident. This is all part of a master plan that's being designed by the Republican Party.
Our many days until the 2024 election? We're 470 days out or so. And so maybe slightly less. So now's the perfect time. Well, the more perfect time would be yesterday, but now's the perfect time to share the MeidasTouch network with a friend, coworker, colleague, family member, whoever. Share Political Beatdown. Just say, hey, these guys show the evidence. They show the facts. No pressure. Just why don't you watch an episode of them? Give them the full hour and just see for yourself, because we always want to be data driven here. And if it takes us 15 minutes to explain a document, we're going to spend 15 minutes. There's no arbitrary cutoff like on the large media networks of how they do things. It's not just yelling at each other. We're going to have a civil discussion. We're going to be passionate when we feel passionately about issues, but we're going to give you the facts here. So share this network right now with everyone. Share the Political Beatdown show with everyone right now. Most importantly, though, make sure you've got family members, friends, coworkers, colleagues who are registered to vote and will be voting for democracy right now. And that's the most important thing that they could be doing. And you have lots of time. So if you just started with 1 or 2 people, we have about 12 to 13 million people who watch the MeidasTouch network every 48 hours in terms of views. These shows get, millions of views as well on the Beatdown. It's one of our most popular, if not the most popular show on the network. So, make sure, this community, this brigader community could be the difference here in this election. I mean it sincerely. If you start now 1, 2 people, they tell 1 or 2 people, the impact is going to be millions of people. And that could be the difference in the election right here. And so you, to me, are the ultimate secret to Political Beatdown. So I think, I did mention this letter from the Department of Justice to Jim Jordan. So I'll just highlight it for a second. But basically, the Department of Justice said, look, you put these fake whistleblowers, who we showed earlier on Political Beatdown, these fake whistleblowers who are IRS agents who claim that the investigation into Hunter Biden was obstructed. And here the DOJ says, look, there was a Trump-appointed Republican prosecutor. He wants to testify. He knows the truth. He knows that these other people are lying. The MAGA Republicans want to spread conspiracy theories. Oh, the Trump appointed this person turned against Donald Trump. No, it's a Trump appointed top prosecutor from Delaware who President Biden could have fired but didn't fire and left there. And the Department of Justice said his name is David Weiss. David Weiss will testify after August recess. Even though it's unusual while a case is still pending for that to happen, the public interest here is now so significant because y'all are just lying in the MAGA Republicans that David Weiss, the Trump appointee, is going to testify. So we'll keep you posted there. Cohen, final word from you.
Yeah, look, like I say all the time, thank you to everybody for helping with the fund. That's obviously still going on. More importantly, we need to ensure that everybody votes. I can't say it enough. And, sometimes people get a little tired. Oh, so we heard you. We heard is the single most important thing. And, I'm speaking right now to Ben. We're contemplating on finding a location that the two of us will end up doing something together live. And of course, our brigaders will be the first ones to know where, when, and so on. I'm thinking DC, sometime in September. I think that we have a nice little march, a nice little gathering. It's important. We need to show who we are. We need to show our strength, and we need to ensure that we continue to build the political beatdown, that we continue to grow our brigaders, because our voice is going to need to be heard in 2024 in order to save democracy. It's so crazy, the fact that we are on the precipice of losing democracy, and together, I really do believe, I have faith in the brigade, and I really have faith in Ben and the MeidasTouch network and all the folks that I speak to on Mea Culpa. I do have faith that we will pull it off in 2024, but my fear is, what if I'm wrong? And that's not a risk that I'm willing to take.
Well, we have faith in you, Cohen. We know you're going to be doing everything that you can do possibly to fight for our democracy. I know you don't like this label, but we definitely think you are a real American hero for what you did, and history will look very kindly at you. I know I'll get that in at the end, and I know you don't view yourself that way. But I want to thank the brigaders, because I'll give the brigaders this. The brigaders are the real heroes out there. I want to thank you for watching this and for all the work that you do every day. Everybody out there who watches this, to fight for our democracy. The small things, the little things all add up to big things. And we know how hard it is that you're working every day, how you're supporting yourself and your family, the work you do for your community. And we just want to acknowledge all of you, the brigaders, for everything that you do for our democracy, for our country, and making this community such an honor for us to be a part of this with you. So from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much. Make sure you're subscribed, not just to our YouTube channel, but also wherever audio podcasts are available. Just whatever podcast service you use, just search Political Beatdown, hit subscribe, leave a 5-star review there. It goes a long way to help the show.
By the way, try to do the same thing with Mea Culpa and the other MeidasTouch network podcasts. They're all fantastic.
We got Mea Culpa. Cohen and I are going to have some big announcements there coming up. We have some other big announcements very soon that we're going to be bringing to you as well. And you see on the bottom, firewallfund.com, where you can support Michael's legal defense fund from Donald Trump's $500 million lawsuit that he filed against Michael Cohen. Also, check out Cohen's book, Revenge, wherever books are sold, wherever audiobooks are sold. It is an incredible, incredible read. Also incredible to download on audio. Just search for Michael Cohen, Revenge. And other than that, go to store.meidastouch.com for the best pro-democracy gear. 100% union made, 100% made in the USA. We got the official Mea Culpa podcast, Mar-a-Lardo Correctional Facility shirt. And for all of those also who became members of the YouTube, thank you. Now, if you want, you can gift people other memberships. You can ask to receive memberships. Again, we don't have outside investors, so that's one of the ways to build this platform. But again, no worries if you can't do that. Just share the show is the best thing you can do.
So, Ben, I have just one last thing I'd like to say before we all sign off. You know that we come to you on Tuesdays and Thursdays at the 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time hour. Propose that when the next indictment on Donald Trump drops, that Ben and I will be seeing you live right here. So stay tuned. Follow us both, whether it's on Twitter, on Threads, on YouTube, wherever it is that you can follow us, because we will make that announcement. Once we hear that that indictment is dropping, Ben and I would like to bring it to you live. So stay tuned, follow us, and that way you could be here with us during this now third indictment, American history. Let's just call it that.
American history, on the front lines of it with Michael Cohen, with the Brigaders. Thank you all. We'll see you next time on Political Beatdown. Shout out to the Meidas Mighty.